Mangwanani Malelepo Vukenjani, Klekwas Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. These are some of the stories we'll be looking at, keeping in mind that Adi Hohad will be joining us to deliver the South Africa report. Togo pushes UN to adopt new map reflecting Africa's true size. Museveni warns MPs against corruption and vows crackdown. South Africa names Roelf Meyer as a US ambassador amid tensions. Prosecutors seek 15-year sentence as Malema returns to court. Both those stories will have more detail from Adi Hohad. This is Africa Good Morning on DSTV 285, GOTV 25, 1up2.com, Network Media Hub, as well as NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA, keeping in mind that Africa is spelled with a K. My name is Ashwin Berry. Top story shortly.
Namibia is a land of movement, with waves that never stop reaching forward. Here, adventure is not something we search for. It is something we are born into. In every corner of this country, creativity rises, from artists, from athletes, from dreamers. And when the world comes to explore Namibia, they discover something extraordinary. Because when sport moves people, creativity moves ideas, and tourism moves the world toward us. Something powerful happens. A platform where movement meets imagination, where industries connect, where opportunity grows, where Namibia's next chapter begins. Welcome to the Creative Sport Tourism Expo. Exhibit, partner, experience. Creative sport tourism.
Now, this has been a year of reclaiming identity and correcting historical past, particularly when it comes to Africa's interaction with the United Nations. We know that earlier in the year, Ghana had gone to have slavery recognized as the gravest crime against humanity by the United Nations, and they managed to do that. Now Togo has brought something else to the table. Togo is preparing to formally request that United Nations member states adopt a world map that accurately represents the true size of Africa, moving away from the long-standing Mercator projection. The initiative follows growing criticism that the Mercator projection distorts global geography by making regions such as Greenland appear comparable in size to Africa, when in reality the continent is about 14 times larger. Togo's Foreign Minister Robert Dussey said the current depiction is geographically inaccurate and called for a shift towards scientific truth. Backed by the African Union, Togo is leading the Correct the Map campaign, which promotes the 2018 Eco-Earth projection as a more accurate alternative. Advocacy groups Africa, No Filter, and Speak Up Africa are also supporting the push. A draft resolution is now being prepared and is expected to be tabled at the next United Nations General Assembly session in September, where member states' positions will be closely watched as an indication of their stance on the issue. We now move to Uganda, where President Yoweri Museveni has issued a very, very stern warning to Ugandan MPs, and this is with regards to corruption. Now, he declared that corruption within legislative oversight structures will not be tolerated and threatens national stability. Speaking at the National Resistance Movement retreat in Nakaseke district, Museveni questioned how governance could function if oversight bodies themselves are compromised. He referred to the arrest of 3 MPs, including Sisi Namuju, Yusuf Mutembuli, and Paul Akamba, over allegations of soliciting a 20% bribe from the Uganda Human Rights Commission to influence its budget. The MPs were detained, later released on bail in August 2024, and charges were dropped this year in January. Museveni said the incident serves as a lesson and warned that both those who give and receive bribes would face removal from office. He revealed that whistleblowers had exposed committee-level corruption where public officials were allegedly pressured to pay for budget approvals. He urged officials to report any bribery attempts immediately. Now, South Africa has appointed veteran politician Roelf Meyer as its new ambassador to the United States, in a move taking place during a period of strained diplomatic relations. President Cyril Ramaphosa confirmed the appointment, noting Meyer's historical role as a key negotiator during the early 1990s transition from apartheid to democracy. At 78, Meyer is recognized for helping guide negotiations that led to South Africa's first democratic elections in 1994, keeping in mind that Cyril Ramaphosa was negotiating on behalf of Nelson Mandela and the ANC at the same time. Now, Roelf's appointment comes as tensions persist with the administration of Donald Trump over issues including South Africa's genocide case against Israel at the United Nations and claims regarding the treatment of white Afrikaners, which Pretoria denies. Relations were further affected when Washington expelled South Africa's previous ambassador following criticism of Trump's political movement. Despite this, the United States remains South Africa's largest trading partner in Africa, with many American companies operating locally. Now, Meyer's diplomatic experience is expected to play a role in managing engagement between the two countries. Here is President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa defending his decision.
Meyer, as South Africa's new ambassador to the United States, replacing Ibrahim Rasool, who was declared persona non grata back in March 2025. Now, of course, Mr. Meyer, you know him very well. He used to serve part of the National Party, but was a key negotiator in South Africa's transition to a democratic state. Your reasoning behind his appointment, and do you think he's ready and capable of fixing South Africa's somewhat strained diplomatic relations with the United States of America? And last question, Mr. President, a South African-born billionaire who owns Starlink and Twitter has been crying foul of South Africa's triple BE policies, labeling them as racist laws, saying that he can't operate in the country because he is not black. And of course, he's gone on a social media campaign where he's saying a lot of things about the country. Just your reactions to that. Thank you very much.
Roelf Meyer is a South African, a very loyal and patriotic South African who has distinguished himself in a number of areas where he has worked. And yes, he did lead the National Party negotiating team together with myself. He was a cabinet minister in the initial government of national unity and has done very well in those areas. Recently, he's been involved in mediation processes in a number of countries, and that in many ways has sharpened his diplomatic skills, where he has been able to get involved either in conflict situations, trying to bring peace amongst differing or warring parties at a very quiet level, continuing to assist even our government in its diplomatic efforts. And when we needed to appoint an ambassador to the United States, I found him to be more than qualified to be able to work in the United States, recalibrate our relationship with the United States, interface with a number of stakeholders in the United States. As it is now, he's been interfacing with a number of people in the United States, both in the Capitol Hill, in the various departments of the United States. So already a lot of interactions have taken place. So he is, for me, more than well qualified to execute this task of being South Africa's ambassador to the United States. And of course, he still has to present his credentials to the government of the United States or to the President of the United States. And I am more than hopeful that just as we have received and accepted the credentials of Ambassador Bozell, he will also be accredited equally in that manner. So he will represent South Africa very well. He has always flown the South African flag, and he will do so like all our ambassadors all over the world. And all we should do is to wish him well and the very best and give him all the support that he needs. The United States is the largest economy in the world, and it still plays an important role in our own economic fortunes. But more than that, at the diplomacy level, there's quite a lot of work that needs to be done to recalibrate and in some ways repair the relationship with the United States in a very respectful manner, in a manner that will take our interests forward. When it comes to the social media,
all right, that was President Cyril Ramaphosa. This was posted on his personal page. Keep in mind that Ari Hohad will be expanding on that story in our South Africa report, which will be shortly. However, staying with South Africa, South African opposition leader Julius Malema has returned to court as prosecutors push for the maximum 15-year prison sentence following his conviction related to firing a rifle in the air at a rally. Malema, leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, was convicted on charges including unlawful possession of a firearm and discharging a weapon in public stemming from a 2018 incident. He pleaded not guilty, maintaining that the firearm used was a toy. Prosecutor Joel Cesar argued that failing to impose a custodial sentence would set a damaging precedent, noting Malema's influence as a political leader with a large following. A sentence exceeding 12 months could disqualify him from serving as a lawmaker, affecting the EFF, which has strong support among young South Africans. Malema's legal team argued for leniency, stating there was no intention to cause harm and suggesting alternatives such as a fine. The court adjourned proceedings to today, with Malema indicating he would appeal any sentence imposed. Here is Julius Malema's advocate.
So we've got a problem here that when you look at the second reason why they say Mr. Malema should go to prison, there is a disjuncture between what the state says and what the court found. You can't do this. You can't send somebody to prison for reasons that the judge did not find him guilty of. So this is the problem now with item 2. 2 firearms, 22 live rounds before 20,000 people. So in other words, the correct postulation is 1 bullet in a stadium of 20,000 people. 1. That's the correct postulation. And then ask yourself, in those circumstances, should I send this man to prison? And it's so absurd that they say, don't only send him to prison, send him to prison for 15 years. So it's like a game that they're playing. It's a game to inflame the passions of the public. Then the next reason why they say Mr. Malema should go to jail is, if you look at their supplementary heads, because he's a public leader and a role model. Now here, I sympathize with the state that we say, well, people that are holding positions of society should take responsibility and they should be good examples. But it's precisely the same reason that Ms. Thompson says you should look at Mr. Malema differently. And your ladyship, I want to remind your ladyship, when we were here during the evidence of Ms. Thompson, your ladyship commented, and they said, what's so special about him? The state says he's special. When we now say today, treat him through the prism of Section 9, everyone is equal before the law. So in other words, my lady, what we have is that for the state that chops and changes its case, depending on what it wants to achieve at a particular point in time. Today, they are trying to expand the realm of penal activity as expansive as possible. And then they say, okay, look at the fact that he's a parliamentarian. But when the witness was here, they said, no, his parliamentary position is irrelevant. He must be treated like everybody else. But a court cannot follow that unprincipled approach. Your ladyship must apply Section 9 of the Constitution, which says everyone is equal before the law. We obviously take into account that Mr. Malema must bear responsibility as a leader in society. We don't run away from that. But it's precisely because of that factor that we say, if you actually look at the fact that he has been criminally charged, it's a public trial that he's been undergoing. The fact that since the day of the charge, there is not even an allegation that he has ever attempted anything to do with the possession of a firearm. The fact that even before he was charged with these offenses, there is not an inkling that Mr. Malema had a propensity to possess firearms or to discharge them openly and publicly, recklessly, as the state tries to argue today.
All right, those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. Keeping in mind, because these are some of the biggest stories in Southern Africa, we are happy we have Ari Hochad after the break to break down the appointment of Roelf Meyer as U.S. ambassador, as well as the sentencing of Julius Malema, amongst other stories, including sport. But for now, let's have a look at the weather.
In current news in South Africa, it is political news. First, it is related to Mr. Julius Malema. He's the leader of the EFF. That's in the news currently trending in South Africa, and that is because there's a court hearing, and it is a sentencing that must happen. That's going to happen on Thursday morning, and that is this morning at 9 a.m. in East London. So it happened in the end of 2025. Mr. Malema, he's the leader of the EFF. He was found guilty. That was on discharging a firearm in public, and that was July 2018 that had happened at the EFF rally, and also found guilty of unlawful possession of a firearm and ammunition, and also reckless engagement. So what's happening now on Thursday morning is the sentencing, and that will be Magistrate Tronet Willifeer that will do the sentencing. So it's related to South Africa, very important for South Africa, because Julius Malema is a leader of the fourth biggest party in South Africa. He's got 9.5% support. That is the EFF, that is voter support in the previous election, and 39 seats in government. It's important because if the sentencing may be above 12 months without the possibility of a fine, then according to section 47(1)(e) of the Constitution, Mr. Malema will not be able to be a member of parliament. So it's a big moment for the EFF leader, what the sentencing will be. There's different options to what can happen. It is in previous cases that was similar. It can range from a suspended sentence. That happened on quite a few cases. That typically happens if somebody is a first offender and somebody didn't die or wasn't get hurt. And also there can be a fine or community work. So anything is possible. The sentence can be anything from 6 months, 12 months, up to 15 years. That is the maximum sentence for those offences. So just to confirm again, it will be 9 a.m. Thursday morning. That will be in East London that the sentencing will be done. And it is Mr. Julius Malema. He's the leader of the EFF. Then also related to current news in South Africa, political news, it is relationships between South Africa and the USA, political relationships. And there's a new ambassador that was confirmed by President Cyril Ramaphosa, and that will be Mr. Roelf Meyer. He's 78 years old, very experienced former politician. He's been a main negotiator for the last 15, 20 years. So he will be the new ambassador in Washington. So it is relationships between South Africa and the USA that is under pressure for some time now. And it also spilled over in global forums, and that is, for example, South Africa not being allowed at the G20 summit in the USA, or President Ramaphosa not allowed there. And then also President Cyril Ramaphosa was dismissed from the G7 summit in France, and that was after objections from America and from President Donald Trump. So it will be important to build new bridges and to try and strengthen those relationships again. And it is thought by the President of South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa, that Roelf Meyer will be the best person to be the ambassador in the USA. Then to close off the current news in South Africa, it's related to the economy, and that is related to Richards Bay Harbour, big component of export and also imports in South Africa. It is a harbour that needs attention, and it is a Transnet that is operating the Richards Bay dry bulk terminal. And so it is investors, locally, domestic and international, that's welcome to contact Transnet and invest. They need to invest at least 5.2 billion South African rand. That is to increase the capacity and the infrastructure at the Richards Bay dry bulk terminal. And it is strategic because the capacity at the moment is 18.5 million tons that is going through that harbour annually, and the capacity can be 26.9 million tons annually. So it's mostly chrome and magnetites and coal and also chlorite that's imported. And at the moment, the Maputo, the harbour from Mozambique, is taking some of the business because the Richards Bay dry bulk terminal is not up to standard and the capacity is limited. So hopefully the big investment that can come from domestic or international investors, and that Richards Bay dry bulk terminal will be up to standards again for good exports and imports. So that is current news in South Africa. In sport news related to South Africa, we first go to the HSBC 7 series. So that starts again, that continues this weekend. It's in Hong Kong, and the men and women team from South Africa play in the tournament. It is South Africa's men's team that will play against Uruguay, Spain and Argentina in their groups. And then the women's team will play against Australia, Canada and Great Britain. Then also on to running news. It was the Two Oceans marathon, ultramarathon over 56 kilometers and half marathon 21 kilometers that was concluded the past weekend. And many Namibian athletes also took part in the ultramarathon and the half marathon. And I spoke to Bofela Lushetile. He's one of the runners. He's from Windhoek, and he ran the 56 kilometers on Saturday, and then also did the 21 kilometer, the half marathon on Sunday.
Thank you. Yeah, yesterday it was a bit tougher, but today I think it was even more tougher because of the run yesterday, especially the first 5 kilometers. I had to warm up quite a bit before I could get into the group, but I managed to finish.
So have you added up all the kilometers? It's like 76 or something in 2 days?
Yes, about 77 kilometers in 2 days. Yeah, it's amazing.
From Windhoek, what club do you run for?
I run for Windhoek City Runner.
Okay, nice.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's nice to be here. It's special. It's a nice area.
It's a nice area, good, scenic, and a lot of things to do. We always like it to be here. We have over 50 club members who came for this event.
Chapman's Peak and that area, that's beautiful.
It's very beautiful, yes. Very beautiful, scenic. I'm always looking forward to that part of the race. Yeah.
And with you is Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie, you're from Germany, I think?
Yes, I'm originally from Germany. I stayed in Namibia for almost 7 years. That's why I've known this marathon for a while. But now I am in Germany and I had to come to Cape Town for this beautiful marathon.
And a special experience doing it with friends. This is quite a lot of people running.
Yes, so many people, and it's really a very nice experience.
Yes, and that is Bofelo and Anne-Marie. Well done to them in the Two Oceans Marathon in Cape Town. Let's conclude the sports side of the news in South Africa, and that is with soccer news. It is Mamelodi Sundowns that's playing in a Confederation of African Football CAF Champions League. That is the second leg semi-final. That will be played in Pretoria on Saturday at Loftus Versfeld. They play against ES Tunis, Esperance Tunis, and it is Mamelodi Sundowns that take a 1-0 advantage into the second leg. They beat ES Tunis last Sunday by 1-0. So the second leg then this Saturday in Pretoria. So good luck, all the best for Mamelodi Sundowns. So that is sports news in South Africa. In entertainment news in South Africa, we go to Muizenberg, and Muizenberg is one of the towns that the Two Oceans Ultra Marathon went through. So just about 15 kilometers into the race, you find Muizenberg. It's a beautiful, beautiful coastal town, and it's on the Valsbaai coast, and it's known for its being a surfing spot. So it's called Surfers Corner. It's beautiful, and often on weekends and every day of the week when the surf is up, there's lots of surfers there, and you can also rent surfboards and wetsuits there, quite close to that surfing spot as well. So it's a town that was established in 1895, and there's a beautiful towns just next to it, like Kalk Bay also and Fishhoek. And you can also take the train. That's very popular for tourists as well, and for locals in Cape Town. Take the train from Cape Town Station all the way to Muizenberg. It's very safe as well, that train, well protected in the train. And then also you can take it further from Muizenberg also to Kalk Bay and even to Simonstown. So it is not only surfing in Muizenberg that's popular. They've got brilliant restaurants as well, also well known for many great seafood restaurants. Then besides all the brilliant restaurants, there's also lots to see for bird watching and for nature lovers. It is the Zandvlei Nature Reserve that's also quite close to Muizenberg, and also just above Muizenberg on the mountains, it's a Table Mountain Reserve that also stretches out all the way to Muizenberg. So lots to see there for tourists and for visitors. Obviously, Muizenberg, a great place to visit, especially for surfing. And that is entertainment news in South Africa.